Hello dear friends, welcome back to Literacy, the channel which serves requirements related with English literature, and today we are here with another quiz on cultural studies. Cultural studies, which is a very engaging field of literature and especially theory, which talks about different aspects of culture, those aspects also which are not considered traditionally to be part of culture but which influence public a lot, like mass media. Dear friends, for the past 3 or 4 decades, cultural studies have been a prominent point of discussion, debate and arguments among all the intellectual community related with economics, sociology and even literature also. In this quiz, I have attempted to cover some recent areas of studies related with field of cultural studies, and these writers and concepts which I have covered are very important from NET point of view. So I hope this quiz will be very beneficial for your preparation. So let's start with our first question, dear students, and the first question is about a book which is subtitled A Philosophical Inquiry into Freud. This work by Herbert Marcuse presents his utopian Marxist vision and is considered an important book in the development of gender studies. Now, you can see 2 or 3 important points. First, the book is basically a philosophical inquiry into Freud. So, this book is basically written by a Marxist and is about the founder of, we can say, psychoanalysis. So it's a, we can say, combination of these two theoretical standpoints, and this book basically presents Marcuse, who was a famous Marxist thinker, his ideas regarding utopian Marxist vision, how a society can be best Marxist society. So what is the name of the book? In fact, all these 4 books are written by Herbert Marcuse. One Dimensional Man, An Essay on Liberation, Eros and Civilization, and Reason and Revolution. They all are very important work, but this book, this particular book, and the correct answer is Eros and Civilization. This is the correct answer. In fact, let me give you some additional detail about this book. It basically questions the view of Freud that civilization is based on the permanent subjugation of human instinct. This is what Freud thought, that we have to, the society had to subjugate basic instincts. On the other hand, he discusses that social meaning of biology, history seen not as a class struggle but a fight against repression of our instincts. So basically it is mixture of Marxist thought which is basically based on economic revaluation of society and also on the ideas of Freud. That is why it inaugurated, it basically helped establishment of gender studies, which also discuss all these points. Our next question, dear friends, is writer of seminal works like Jackie and Ideology of Adolescent Femininity and Feminism and Youth Culture. This cultural studies scholar is known for focusing on issues related with working class women's and young girls' complex relationship with femininity and cultural production. In fact, the work by this writer, she is very much concerned about popular culture, mass culture, about media and the impact of these things on the lower class, working class and young class subcultures, which are generally not included in the mainstream media. All these things are discussed by this famous, this prominent, this current cultural studies scholar. Is it Angela McRobbie, Rosalind Gill, Susan Bolotin or Susan Bolotin? You have to, these all four names are very important names. They all are at present doing various researches in the field of social studies and cultural studies. But the answer for this particular question, the writer of Jackie and Ideology of Adolescent Femininity, is Angela MacRobbie. Angela MacRobbie, my dear friends, she is a British cultural theorist, and also she is very vocal about the impact of subculture. Rosalind Gill, if we talk about her, she is also a British sociologist and feminist cultural theorist. Susan Bolotin, she is author of Voices of the Post-Feminist Generation, which is also an important book. And Suzanne Bordeaux, she is known for her work in body studies. Dear friends, these all types, body studies, subculture studies, punk culture, cyber culture, these all are, we can say, varieties of cultural studies. Cultural studies is not a, we can say, a very morphous body. It is an amorphous body. There is no fixed boundary. There is no fixed watertight categories where to situate the studies. It includes almost all aspects of life. So these all are some recent developments, and various theorists are working on it. Our next question talks about Christian Metz. He is an important and influential figure, best known for pioneering a scientific approach in the field of. So you have to identify the field in which Christian Metz has made his contribution. Is it eco-criticism, post-humanism, translation studies, or film studies? Once again, I would like to bring your attention to these various fields, which are emerging fields, which are basically posts of concern for various thinkers. Eco-criticism talk about ecology and human interaction and their concerns regarding the decline of this rich relationship. Post-humanism is about the new technological space and how human beings are treated more like machines. Translation studies is about basically how we translate a particular writer in different language, and what are the criteria, and what differences a culture technique creates. And film studies, it is also a trend which began at the beginning of 20th century, which is now very much prominent. It talks about how cinema is also a very proper medium, a kind of literature through which we have to see. Okay, if we talk about Christian Metz, yes friends, he is related with film studies. He has authored many important books on this topic. In fact, we can say he is the father of modern film studies. His book like Film Language, which he authored in 1968, and also very important book considered Bible of film theory, Language and Cinema, which he wrote in 1971. These two books established the field of film studies very formally, and now many more directors and theorists have tried to understand the concept of film studies. Our next question: there ain't no black in the Union Jack, the cultural politics of race and nation, and the empire strikes back, race and racism in 1970s Britain. These two books are candid critique of the ethnocentric bias of early cultural studies, and they underscore the heterogeneous populations of the English nation and their cultural practices. Basically, what these books try to say that generally in all the cultural studies, the early cultural studies, the focus was on the white race, their culture, their habits, their way of life. They all ignored the migrants, the other races. So look at the title, there ain't no black in Union Jack. Race and Racism in 1970s Britain. So these two books and some other works like that, they try to pinpoint, they try to brought to surface the heterogeneous populations. There are Asians, there are Africans, there are other migrants living in Britain who are generally ignored. Their culture is generally silenced. So these particular books try to surface these hitherto closed ideas. So who is the author of these book? Is it Stuart Hall, Henry Louis Gates, Paul Gilroy, or Dick Hebdige? Dear students, the answer for this question is Paul Gilroy. He is a very influential writer in this particular respect. In fact, another name is Henry Louis Gates, whose very popular book is Figures in Black. Figures in Black. Please remember the name of this book also. It is also very important book in Black studies. And similarly, Paul Gilroy's work tried to present the consciousness of Black identity in a multicultural nation. Next question, dear friends, is Subculture, the meaning of style, is acclaimed as one of the most influential books in cultural studies that brilliantly analyzes different facets of style like punk culture, pop music, working class subculture, and it explores how it is commodified and diffusion of style by the media. Basically, the writer of this book, not only studies various subculture, youth culture, alternative cultures like we can say rap songs, punk, or we can say particular part of culture which is not in the mainstream. It not only focuses on these cultures, but it also describes the technique by which the media commodify it and make it a part of the merchandise and a part of new capitalist strategy to commodify everything. The writer of this book is Paul Gilroy, Dick Hebdige, Lawrence Grossberg, or Phil Cohen. You have to identify the writer, and without taking more time, the answer is Dick Hebdige. Dick Hebdige basically works in this particular field, that how new capitalist tendency to commodify everything so that everything becomes consumer friendly. Next question is, this renowned theorist of globalization studies has proposed 5 dimensions of global cultural flows. This term is also given by this writer and is of the view that relationship between these 5 escapes, these 5 flows, dimensions, is very disjunctive and profoundly unpredictable. It's a beautiful work. This work basically tries to present the view that there are 5 different flows. Okay, and because they are flows, they are not unidirectional. It is not that they all are always separated in the present world. Rather, they sometimes merge and get separate from each other. So this globalization studies basically means that we cannot predict, we cannot be ensured about how a particular nation, how a particular culture, how a particular group of people will interact. Your options are Arjun Appadurai, Madan Sarup, Henry Cripps, or Homi Bhabha. The answer for this particular question is Arjun Appadurai. And let me add these escapes, these 5 dimensions. First is media escape. Media escape talks about distribution of electronic capabilities and images made by media. Second is techno escape. Techno escape is about how technology is used globally. Third is finance escape. Obviously, it talks about capital and how it is disposed globally. Fourth one is ideoscape, which is about political images and ideologies. And the last one is, and most important, ethnoscape. Ethnoscape is about people, immigrants, tourists, which affects the policies of the country in which they are living or which they are visiting. So all these escapes, these global cultural flows, they interact with each other, and their communication, their relation is disjunctive and unpredictable. So this is the concept given by Arjun Appadurai. Our next question is, a prominent political scientist and cultural critic, Benedict Anderson, gave this term to define a nation as a socially constructed community. So it's a very you can say revised definition of nation. Nation is nothing like a tradition, or it is not defined geographically, it is not defined politically, it is not defined culturally, but rather it is a constructed community, a socially constructed community. So you have to identify the term which Benedict Anderson proposes. Is it imagined nationality, imagined society, imagined communities, or imagined culture? And it is a very important concept, and it is very likely that such questions appear in your exam. The answer, dear friends, is imagined communities. In fact, why he calls it imagined? Because the actuality of the smallest nation, the nation which has population less than 1 lakh or 5 lakh, even our relationship to all other inhabitants of that nation is not possible to know. A single person cannot know all other you can say citizen of that particular nation. One cannot know all the aspects of economy, all the aspects of history and geography, but we imagine that we are connected to each other. You can understand that for a country as large as India, it is impossible even to know everything about your district. Let's not talk about our country. So it is just imagined that we share all these things with more than 1 billion people. Next question, dear friends, is the concept that describes a space where multiracial peer groups can remake the identity defining cultural signs and symbols, and they also reject the prejudice of racism. This is basically we are talking about a space, okay, and this space is a special space where people of different races, they come across each other, they interact with each other, and before that they have to leave all the traditional prejudices related with one race. They have to forsake their forced identities, and they have to create new identities for themselves. It's a very important concept in post-colonial and post-modern discourse, and you have to identify the answer. Is it diasporic space, hybrid space, liminal space, or multicultural space? So as I hope you can guess the answer, it is liminal space. Liminal space or liminal state, where we have to renounce our roles, where we have to demolish the structures, the traditional structures, where African or black people and white young people, they can engage with each other, they can have a talk with each other, they can basically exchange their ideas without any racist prejudice on non-racist terms. Okay, next question. Originally used as a derogatory term for a style of mass produced art or design using popular cultural icons, This term is now used in postmodernist discourse to challenge the received distinction between art and mass merchandise. Okay, this term basically means that initially it was used to criticize a particular thing. For example, let's say a statue of Lord Krishna, a statue of Jesus, or some other thing which is a popular icon, and then it is made using some cheap material, and then it is sold. It is sold in form of lockets or other things. But in the present postmodern discourse, it is basically used to show how the hell difference between high art and low art or mass art is artificial. And everything that sells is art. This is the modern definition, postmodern definition of art. So is it pastiche, montage, camp, or kitsch? You have to identify. All these terms basically are related with postmodern discourse, and our term for this particular mass produced cheap art, which was considered cheap art but now which is treated as a part of mass merchandise, it is kitsch. Kitsch is the answer. Kitsch is the term which we use to define this thing. The process by which resistant or innovative cultural forms, which are in fashion, music, forms of political protest, they are taken up and commodified by the culture industry, it is termed as. So you can understand what we are talking about. We are talking about something which was against, which was resisting the main flow of culture, the main body. Okay, but now the cultural industry commodify it and make it a part of main culture. You can find many examples. Fashion, which started as a sort of rebellion against the proper, even the very popular jeans. It was used to be dress which was initially meant for workers, then it becomes a kind of youth icon, and later it become a commodified item. Now it is even used by that particular class with which it was initially used as an icon of struggle. So is it incorporation, co-option, interpellation, or both incorporation and co-option? Dear friends, I hope you know, in my one of earlier videos I have talked about this term interpellation. Interpellation is the process by which a human subject is addressed and positioned in relation to ideology. So it is not interpellation, but it is both incorporation and co-option. So the right answer is both A and B. With this we come to our last question of this quiz. Postmodernism or the cultural logic of late capitalism, 1991. It is an influential analysis of the postmodern condition. As the author argues, postmodernity has transformed the historical past into a series of pastiche that can be commodified and consumed. We are continuously talking about this aspect in which capitalism or neo-capitalism, how it takes those icon which was against capitalism and uses it and make it a commodity, and then it is consumed by the public. So the writer of this very important book, who is this one? FREDRIC JAMESON, or is it Jean Baudrillard, or is it Jean-Francois Lyotard, or Roland Barthes? You have to identify the answer. Yes, dear friend, it is FREDRIC JAMESON who has given this concept, who has written this book, Cultural Logic of Late Capitalism. Okay, dear friends, these 11 questions are all in this particular section. I hope you are covering this very important aspect of your NET preparation. I suggest you should read more and more about terms which are related with postmodernism, and most of the cultural studies work is related with Marxist theory and queer theory or feminism. All aspects of life are covered under it. I hope you are able to cover it in time. Thank you, friends.